If you want to get me in trouble, you're doing a good job.
Extortion in the Trump orbit. Who'da thunk? Joshua Nass is an attorney/lobbyist in the Trump sphere who was arrested last week after allegedly recruiting someone to, quote, do anything and everything to force his former client and the client's son to pay him the $500,000 they owe him. Nass is 34 years old and is being charged with extortion. Since his arrest, he's already been released on a $5 million bond. And for being so young, Nass has made a name for himself around Mar-a-Lago and the White House. He regularly touts how well-connected he is. He posts pictures on social media with members of the Trump administration and the Trump family, and he claims to be a lover of the United States, Israel, and Western civilization, whatever that means. We know what it means. In the case against him, Nass is being accused of attempting to receive $500,000 from his client by extorting the client's son. The plan was to settle the father's debt to Nass through the son's insurance policy. When Nass hired the person to help him extort the son, they met several times discussing methods in which this goal could be achieved. And according to court filings, Nass and this individual discussed potentially kidnapping the son and physically assaulting him. Nass also, according to filings, gave this individual license to not behave, quote, like a human being in his dealings with the client's son. The filings simply refer to the client and son as John Doe 1 and John Doe 2, and while you might be inclined to feel badly for them, remember the type of people that we're dealing with here. First of all, this guy is not paying his attorney for $500,000 worth of services rendered, allegedly, to the point that the attorney felt the need to resort to extortion. I'm not excusing Nass's behavior, but just giving a little perspective. These are not good people, and no one here, as far as we know, is innocent. But though Nass's targets were never named, court and disclosure filings suggest that John Doe 1 is Joseph Schwartz, a New York man in his late 60s who was sentenced to 3 years in prison last April over a $38 million nursing home fraud tax scheme in Arkansas. He was pardoned by President Donald Trump just months later on November 14, 2025. Schwartz only served 3 months of that 3-year sentence, and in January, Nass stated in a lobbying disclosure that he was paid $100,000 between November and December 2025 for advocacy concerning executive clemency and post-conviction relief, including federal presidential pardon advocacy and subsequent efforts to obtain expedited parole and state-level relief in Arkansas. It really is just laid out that plainly. That $100,000 was just part of what was supposed to be a $600,000 payment, and so allegedly, the Schwartzes still owe Nass $500,000. On top of that money, Nass is believed to have paid nearly an additional $1 million to right-wingers who claim to have connections to Laura Loomer, who of course for some reason has a direct line to the president. Thousands more were paid to lawyers who had connections to other members of the Trump administration, including Alice Marie Johnson, Trump's pardon czar, and White House counsel David Warrington. So the idea is that Schwartz needed a pardon, and Nass, who markets himself as a well-connected lawyer who specializes in quote-unquote executive branch advocacy, helped facilitate the Trump pardon that Schwartz ultimately did receive. However, the Trump White House, specifically White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, says that Donald Trump cannot be bought. You can't pay him for pardons, and he doesn't even know who these so-called lobbyists are. But that's the bigger problem, isn't it? Trump absolutely can be bought. He is the most can-be-bought president ever. Sometimes you don't even need to give him money or gifts. Sometimes you can just give him a well-timed and well-placed compliment. He really just needs a few ego hits. And the New York Times investigated this exact phenomenon more fully, citing this case between Nass and potentially Joseph Schwartz as evidence that Trump is very much a pay-to-play and pay-to-pardon president. Regarding these pardon lobbyists, a growing number of practitioners promise access in this murky enterprise, but some may also exaggerate their effectiveness to elicit payments from clients desperate to avoid incarceration. Pardon seekers routinely offer to pay as much as $1 million or more, often with bonus payments triggered by a successful outcome, according to lobbying, filings, and people familiar with the fees. White-collar crime, pardoning white-collar crime aside, the fact that someone like Schwartz has allegedly millions of dollars to pour into a pardon is terrible in and of itself, especially when you consider how he got his money. He got it through a nursing home tax fraud scheme in Arkansas. He limited resources from a system of nursing homes that needed it, depriving the staff of health care and depriving the facilities and their patients of supplies and care. Also, he could make millions of dollars again on a tax fraud scheme. And even after getting caught, after all of the resources it takes to move a criminal successfully through our criminal justice system, he just gets to now walk free because our criminal of a president decided to look out for his own. And on top of that, he committed tax fraud of all things. This is money that he is now denying to our country. This is money that should be the people's money. But here we have yet another example of the rich hoarding money at the expense of everyone else. There is no trickle down, and anyone who still believes there is or will be is deluding themselves. There never was a trickle. There was never even supposed to be a trickle. It was always a farce. And I've said it before, if you think this isn't our country, that this isn't what we stand for, then you are simply not paying attention. This country elected an unqualified Nepo baby / businessman / reality TV star / convicted felon as its president, in doing so publicly declaring and demonstrating that we as a people value exorbitance over all else, even over justice, even over our collective well-being. We value winners like Donald Trump. We don't care if he has to lie and cheat his way to where he is because he's a man who did what it took to reach the very top. He is what American culture celebrates and rewards and finds inspirational. It's the same reason why so many dude bros watched The Wolf of Wall Street and came away idolizing and attempting to emulate the movie's villain, Jordan Belfort. Donald Trump is the epitome of the corruption of capitalism and where it leads, and he is what the American people chose. And this is why protesting matters. While you can debate whether or not it actually makes a difference, especially these days protests against Trump and the administration don't even get the news coverage that they deserve. But there is data supporting the fact that the majority of Americans did not elect Donald Trump. And I'm not even talking about potential fraud that happened during the 2024 election. I'm just talking about the number of people who voted against him or did not vote at all. His approval ratings are so consistently low that even if you want to throw him finally winning the popular vote in people's faces, it's hard to argue that the American people like him and want him leading us. We protest to demonstrate that, not just to each other, but also to the world. The American people are not this because we don't want to be this. We need to define who we are before our government does it for us. We need to show the world who we are if in fact we are not trying to be a nation under Donald Trump. All right, that's it for me. If you got anything out of this, please like the video and subscribe to the channel for more. Thanks.